The concept of a scope box is that it's a volume that is used to control construction documents. So that typically, say, a level 1, level 2, level 3 of your building, you're choosing what area. You're looking down the way towards the scope box and you're seeing the extents of your project. That way all of your floor plans can match up on a sheet because they're all depicting the same exact area. However, there's much more that you can do with them. So scope boxes shown here can be used to, with their associated section box, to cut through the model. So for example, looking at the 3D view where it says scope box none, I can come in and I can say, show me apartment units, right, and just see them, or show me just the central court part of my building so I can be looking at that. I typically would pick an object and then orbit to look at the project. I can be looking at maybe just the entry area of my building, so I can see that here. I can look at mass to see the surrounding area of my project. Let's just go back to that view. That's the project, but then I could also do something like this, unit F, where I'm just looking at, one particular area of my building, an apartment unit F. So the significant part of this would be, say I was on like level 3, is that not only does it let me work with the construction documents, but it also lets me, for example, manage RAM on my machine. So if I said my scope box is unit F, I'm just looking at this here. And if I were to say, if I was going to say, give me a starting view, so a camera, I'm going to be standing in here looking in this direction. And I get my 3D view. And when you're using a scope box, so down here, for example, where I say the scope box is just that of unit F, this means that I'm only loading the geometry that's in this particular area, not my entire project, not all of the 3-story high multifamily unit. So if I were to use third-party products like Twinmotion or Enscape or something where I want to export just that geometry, I can say start, and instead of it taking minutes to load the project, or maybe even longer than a few minutes, you'll see I'm not cutting any of this. This is it doing it live. And this is while I'm also recording. So some of my RAM is going on the recording software, Camtasia, which I love. And so there I'm in my apartment building. I can click in here. I can walk around in my building, right? So if I often find modeling errors in here, which is a huge plus for me. I'm going to walk, I can walk through these doors. So if I go through there, I can see my interiors and I can see any Revit content that I've got there. That would include, anything that you've got in your interior design. These are decals that are used inside Revit to show images, but for pictures, for certificates, for anything you want. So the point being, it's not just construction documents. It's a really good way to get into a highly proficient visualization product and be able to see everything that's going on. And as I say, I always catch modeling mistakes. I saw one briefly in here. If I just go quickly through the building, that's not looking good, and that's probably a modeling mistake on my part. So I catch it and then I fix it.